Lose weight, or you'll regret ignoring me. The message blinked on Lily Harper's phone as she paused mid-stride on the treadmill, her chest tight, the hum of the gym drowned out by the pounding of her own heartbeat. Rain tapped against the floor-to-ceiling windows outside, streaking the city lights into blurry ribbons that mirrored her thoughts. Always moving, always running, never enough. She wiped her palms on a towel and glanced at the reflection in the mirror, her green eyes meeting her own gaze with defiance simmering beneath the surface. The ping of another notification made her glance down again. Ethan Blackwood. No subject line, no explanation, just authority stitched into every pixel of his text. She could feel the weight of the name pressing against her, a presence that seemed to fill the room even though he wasn't there. Tired muscles burned, but she pushed through another set, another minute, another push toward a goal that felt like someone else's idea of perfection. The door to the gym swung open, and even before turning her head, she sensed him. Ethan, tall, impossibly composed, moving through the space with quiet control, his tailored black coat brushing past equipment racks, dark eyes scanning, calculating, measuring. He stopped a few feet away, the silence stretching, charged, heavy with unspoken rules she had no intention of obeying. Her pulse quickened as she placed her hands on her hips, towel clutched loosely, a thin line between exhaustion and defiance. You think I'd come all this way to warn you? His voice was low, deliberate, each word a ripple across still water, impossible to ignore. She straightened, meeting his gaze with a steady, unflinching look. I'm not here for warnings, she replied, voice firm but quiet, the tremor in her limbs hidden beneath resolve. A flicker crossed his face, a brief interest, the kind that made the room smaller, the air thicker, as if it could collapse around them both. He leaned slightly closer, scent of leather and winter cologne mixing with the electric hum of her adrenaline. Lose weight, Lily, or you won't last in the world you're stepping into. She tilted her chin, green eyes flashing. I've lasted this long on my own. Don't underestimate me, Ethan. A pause, long enough to feel the seconds stretching, a battle of wills in a room that suddenly felt too small for both of them. The hum of the treadmill, the distant clatter of weights, all became a soundtrack to the silent negotiation between them. He took a slow step back, letting his dark gaze sweep over her, appraising, cataloging strength and defiance with a precision that felt invasive yet magnetic. Lily's chest rose and fell, each inhale and exhale measured, deliberate. The challenge had been set, the line drawn in invisible ink only they could see. Yet as the rain continued to streak the windows, as the city outside blurred and pulsed like a living heartbeat, Lily felt an unexpected surge. Not fear, not submission, but awareness. She had captured his attention, had stirred something that no text, no command, no authority could fully contain. And in that charged, taut moment, neither moved, the silence thick, almost sacred, a prelude to the storm that was only beginning. The hum of the city beyond the gym windows became a muted pulse, every distant car and hurried footstep blending into a rhythm that mirrored Lily Harper's heartbeat. Ethan Blackwood remained a few steps away, his presence both oppressive and magnetic, the tailored lines of his black coat precise, almost surgical in their impact. Lily toweled the sweat from her brow and set the towel down, muscles aching from the treadmill, yet her mind sharpened, calculating, alert. She took a measured step toward the rack of dumbbells, lifting one, feeling its weight anchor her to reality, a defiance in every controlled breath. Ethan's gaze followed her, unblinking, a shadow of a smile brushing the corners of his mouth, subtle, almost imperceptible, yet heavy with an intensity that made the air between them taut. She adjusted her grip, her knuckles whitening, and met his eyes again. You are not here to help me, are you? She asked, voice steady, carrying across the empty gym like a quiet challenge. He shook his head slowly, the movement deliberate, each second stretching longer than it should, the subtle scent of his winter cologne weaving into the humid air, a reminder of his proximity, of the unspoken rules he embodied. I am here to ensure you understand the stakes, he replied, low and deliberate, eyes narrowing, studying her, cataloging her reactions as if each blink, each slight shift of weight was data to be interpreted. Lily straightened, feeling the energy between them coil and stretch like a spring ready to snap. Her green eyes, sharp and unyielding, refused to flicker with doubt. Every line of her body screamed readiness, independence, and determination. The treadmill beeped, signaling the end of her interval, and she stepped off, placing her hands on her hips, chest rising and falling with steady, deliberate breaths. Ethan stepped closer, careful, precise, his polished shoes making no sound against the rubber flooring, the faint reflection of his image in the mirror showing him observing, analyzing, a predator measuring not for attack, but for influence. She adjusted the weight on the dumbbell rack, listening to the metallic click as the iron settled, a tiny punctuation in the silence that seemed to grow heavier with every second. "You believe your choices are yours alone," Ethan said, his voice a low vibration in the enclosed space. "But power always has a cost." Lily lifted the dumbbell, her arm shaking slightly, resisting, pushing against the pull of both the weight and his words. "I am aware of costs," she said, lifting the weight smoothly, then setting it down with precision. "I am aware of consequences. I decide what I owe and to whom." The faintest smile curved on his lips, approving, almost imperceptible, yet carrying weight, the kind that unsettled even without threat. His dark eyes never left hers, tracing, learning, analyzing, and in that moment, Lily recognized a subtle shift, a pause in his usual command, a recognition of her fortitude that made the room shrink around them, focused, intimate despite the open gym. The rain intensified outside, each drop a staccato drum against the glass, reflecting streaks of neon from the city streets, the blur of lights a canvas for tension, for challenge, for silent negotiation between power and will. Lily adjusted her stance, feeling the tremor of exertion in her arms, the heartbeat in her chest, steady and determined. Ethan remained, silent now, letting the words hang, letting the space fill with the weight of observation and unspoken acknowledgment, each second a test, each breath a measure of control and endurance. The gym felt smaller, the lights brighter, shadows stretching across the floor as their attention, fierce and unyielding, focused on one another, two individuals locked in the unspoken contest of influence, resolve, and presence. She picked up a water bottle, lifting it to her lips, letting the cool liquid flow, a grounding ritual amidst the heightened awareness, a statement of resilience. He stepped back slightly, giving her space, but the intensity in his gaze remained, a silent acknowledgment that the balance had shifted subtly, imperceptibly, that her defiance had not only been noted, but was now a force he could not ignore. The treadmill, the weights, the mirrors, the rain outside, all became part of a shared rhythm, a silent dance of observation, testing boundaries, pushing limits, measuring responses, an intricate choreography of power, defiance, and fascination that promised the next encounter would be just as charged, just as deliberate, and entirely unyielding in its intensity. The rain outside had softened into a steady drizzle, each droplet tracing the glass of the gym windows with a delicate, rhythmic patter that seemed almost musical against the backdrop of humming fluorescent lights. Lily Harper moved deliberately through the space, adjusting the weights, feeling the subtle resistance, each repetition a meditation of focus and control, a statement of independence. Ethan Blackwood remained nearby, leaning slightly against the frame of a mirrored wall, his arms crossed, eyes never leaving her form, observing, calculating, the faint lines of a smile playing on his lips, but never fully breaking the composure he held with effortless precision. The air between them was dense, charged, a tangible current that made every movement deliberate, every glance weighted with implication. Lily set down a kettlebell and reached for her towel, her green eyes catching the reflection of Ethan across the room, noting the sharp cut of his jaw, the intensity in his dark eyes, and the subtle shift in his posture, as if the simple act of her handling a weight had commanded his attention. "You work with determination," he said, voice low, calm, but carrying a depth that made the silence stretch between them like a taut wire. She wiped her brow, holding his gaze with steady defiance. "I work for myself, not for anyone else." The brief exchange lingered, the cadence of their words echoing across the polished floor, harmonizing with the rhythmic drip of rain. Ethan took a step closer, careful, controlled, the scent of leather and winter air wrapping around him like a signature, his presence an assertion of unspoken authority that Lily acknowledged but did not yield to. Her hands gripped the dumbbells again, lifting with a precise rhythm, each repetition a counter to his silent scrutiny, a physical declaration of her agency. He watched, noting the subtle flex of her arms, the controlled cadence of her breathing, the resilience in the slight arch of her brow. "You understand the message, do you not?" he asked, voice threaded with the calm force of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Lily paused mid-repetition, dumbbell suspended at her shoulder, eyes steady, unwavering. "I understand. I will make my choices, and I will face the consequences of my own decisions." Ethan nodded slightly, a gesture almost imperceptible but weighted with acknowledgment, an unspoken approval that reverberated through the charged space. The boundaries between challenge and observation, authority and defiance, blurring in the tension that stretched between them. The mirrors reflected them both, their forms caught in a dance of light and shadow, every subtle movement, every inhalation, every measured step a conversation without words, a negotiation of wills and presence. Lily replaced the weights and stepped toward the edge of the room, letting her gaze drift to the rain-streaked city beyond the windows, each streetlight casting a soft glow across her determined features. Ethan followed her with his eyes, unblinking, every detail catalogued, yet leaving space for interpretation, for intrigue, for the quiet, simmering fascination that had begun to take root. The gym, with its fluorescent hum and metallic echoes, had become a theater of silent confrontation, a place where power, defiance, and presence were tested not through words alone, but through the subtle choreography of stance, glance, and intention. Lily felt it in her chest, the steady drum of her heart, the deliberate calm in her limbs, the sharp clarity of thought that made her aware that this interaction was no ordinary encounter. It was the opening of a complex game of influence and understanding, where neither party fully yielded, yet both were irrevocably drawn into the dynamic, the unspoken challenge stretching forward into the moments yet to come, a prelude to decisions that would unfold with careful precision, deliberate intent, and the inevitable acknowledgment of the magnetism between control and defiance. The fluorescent lights of the gym reflected off the polished floor in long, thin streaks, painting patterns that shifted with each movement Lily Harper made as she walked toward the row of medicine balls. Ethan Blackwood remained stationary, hands in the pockets of his tailored coat, his posture relaxed yet exuding the unmistakable presence of authority. The faint scent of rain lingered in the air, carrying with it the city's sounds of distant traffic and occasional sirens, a subtle reminder that the world outside moved at a different rhythm. Lily picked up a ball, feeling its firm weight in her hands, rolling it lightly between her palms, the simple motion grounding her in the moment while her mind raced with calculation and awareness. Ethan tilted his head slightly, observing the way her muscles engaged, the controlled tension in her arms, the precision in every gesture, a silent acknowledgement of her discipline and focus. "You have remarkable endurance," he said, voice calm, deliberate, filling the space between them without demanding a response. She paused mid-motion, meeting his gaze steadily. "I have to, if I am going to rely on myself," she replied, her words carrying both pride and defiance, resonating through the quiet gym. The rain outside intensified, tapping against the windows in a rhythm that matched her steady heartbeat, the reflection of city lights blurring into elongated streaks that mirrored the intensity in her green eyes. Ethan took a few deliberate steps closer, careful, measured, his presence undeniable yet non-intrusive, the subtle fragrance of leather and winter cologne tracing an invisible path around him, drawing attention without gesture. Lily felt the weight of his scrutiny but did not flinch, rolling the medicine ball beneath her hand with precise motion, a quiet signal that she would not be easily influenced or intimidated. "Every choice has a consequence," Ethan said, his voice low, steady, resonating with controlled authority, the words hanging in the air like a carefully placed marker in the ongoing silent dialogue between them. Lily straightened, adjusting her posture, shoulders back, chest forward, taking a measured breath as she met his gaze with unwavering determination. "I accept the consequences of my own choices," she replied, the firmness in her voice resonating in the open space, a statement that was both challenge and affirmation. He nodded almost imperceptibly, a small gesture but heavy with meaning, a recognition that her resolve had been noted and catalogued, the subtle shift in his eyes betraying a flicker of interest, an acknowledgment of her strength. The mirrored walls reflected both of them, their movements, their stance, the silent negotiation of power and will unfolding without words, a choreography of observation, assessment, and mutual acknowledgement. Lily set the ball down gently, her hands lingering on it for a moment, feeling the cool, firm texture as she centered herself, grounding her determination in the physical act, while Ethan's gaze remained fixed on her, measuring, weighing, considering the next unspoken move. The gym, with its metallic echoes and quiet hum of fluorescent light, had become a stage for the subtle exchange of authority and resistance. Each gesture, each glance, each controlled movement a step in a carefully balanced dance of presence, influence, and fascination, the tension between them palpable yet restrained, a promise of challenges and engagement to follow, a silent understanding that their encounter was far from over, and that the dynamics of control, resilience, and intrigue were only beginning to unfold. The sound of rain softened further, creating a gentle rhythm against the gym windows, streaking the city lights into muted, shifting patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. Lily Harper stepped toward the row of yoga mats, her muscles still humming with exertion, and unrolled one with precision, settling onto the cool floor with measured breaths. Ethan Blackwood remained standing near the mirrored wall, his dark eyes tracing every subtle motion, noting how her posture balanced strength with grace, how her focus anchored her in the present while her mind remained alert to every nuance of the room. "You carry yourself as though the world is yours to challenge," he said, voice even, calm, but resonating with an undercurrent of interest that made the space between them feel charged. Lily adjusted her position, keeping her gaze level, meeting his without hesitation. "I challenge only what I choose," she replied, her tone quiet but deliberate, each word a statement of agency and resolve. The reflective surfaces of the mirrors caught the interplay of shadows and light, exaggerating the distance between them while simultaneously compressing it, a visual echo of the invisible tension that had grown steadily since his arrival. Ethan moved a careful step closer, measuring, calculating, each footfall deliberate, silent in the quiet room, the subtle scent of his cologne a gentle presence that brushed against her awareness without intrusion. Lily held her position on the mat, hands pressing lightly into the floor, steadying her body, steadying her focus, a silent signal that she was present, aware, and unyielding. "Your resolve is impressive," he continued, voice carrying the weight of observation, an unspoken acknowledgment of her strength and determination. Lily allowed a slow exhale to punctuate her stance, lifting her head to meet his eyes fully, the green of her gaze reflecting both challenge and clarity, signaling that she was both aware of and undeterred by his scrutiny. The rain outside painted the streets in a sheen of muted reflections, each streak of light a soft accompaniment to the silent rhythm of power, resistance, and intrigue unfolding in the enclosed gym space. She transitioned into a series of controlled stretches, each movement precise, deliberate, the subtle flex of her muscles a testament to discipline and intent, while Ethan's gaze followed, cataloging, considering, appreciating the resilience he observed without comment, the acknowledgment unspoken but evident in the measured tilt of his head. Lily rose slowly, stepping from the mat with care, feeling the faint warmth from her exertion mingling with the coolness of the floor beneath her feet, grounding her in the space and in the moment. Ethan shifted slightly, a minimal adjustment, maintaining his stance, his presence both steady and commanding, a reminder of the unspoken influence he held even in silence. She moved toward the row of medicine balls, selecting one with intent, and he watched, noting the subtle tension in her grip, the controlled cadence of her movements, and the quiet confidence in every measured step. The gym, with its reflective surfaces and steady hum of activity beyond the windows, had transformed into a stage of observation and subtle negotiation, where each glance, each motion, and each measured breath became part of the unfolding interplay of will, presence, and silent acknowledgment between them. Lily placed the medicine ball back with care, straightened, and allowed a slow, deliberate breath, feeling the weight of awareness and the anticipation of the unspoken challenge that still lingered in the charged air, a promise that the dynamic between control and defiance, authority and independence, had only begun to deepen. The gym was quieter now, the fluorescent lights casting a soft glow across the polished floor, highlighting the subtle movements of Lily Harper as she adjusted the resistance bands on the wall, rolling one between her palms to steady her breathing and focus. Ethan Blackwood remained near the mirrored corner, his presence a silent constant, watching, absorbing, yet giving her space, the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the air as if marking his territory without intrusion. Lily bent slightly, stretching her shoulders and spine, the motion fluid, controlled, deliberate, each movement a statement of intent, resilience, and awareness. She could feel the weight of his gaze without being pinned by it, a careful tension that made the air dense, palpable, charged with anticipation and subtle energy. "You do not falter," Ethan said, his voice low, even, a resonance that seemed to vibrate softly through the room, carrying both observation and unspoken respect. Lily straightened, taking a measured breath, green eyes meeting his without a flicker of hesitation. "I have never allowed circumstances to dictate my path," she replied, voice firm yet calm, the words carrying a clarity that seemed to settle into the quiet of the space. He shifted slightly, a step closer but careful, precise, the faint gleam of light on his dark shoes marking the rhythm of his approach, each movement deliberate, methodical, observing, weighing. Lily adjusted her grip on a kettlebell, lifting it with smooth control, feeling the tension in her muscles, her core, her arms, the subtle burn grounding her, anchoring her in presence, a physical manifestation of focus and defiance. Ethan's dark eyes followed every motion, cataloging, measuring, analyzing, yet his expression softened imperceptibly as he noted the strength, discipline, and unspoken determination she carried in each action. The mirrors reflected both of them, the dance of shadows and light emphasizing distance yet compression, proximity yet space, a visual echo of the complex dynamic unfolding between authority and defiance, presence and resistance. Lily set the kettlebell down with care, exhaling slowly, letting the rhythm of her breath center her, the tension of effort blending with the charged atmosphere of observation and unspoken acknowledgment. Outside, the rain pattered lightly, each droplet a soft percussion against the windows, the city lights casting streaks of color across the floor, blending with reflections to create a kaleidoscope of motion and stillness. Ethan finally spoke again, voice deliberate, steady. "Your dedication is evident, but so is your independence." Lily nodded slightly, a subtle acknowledgement, holding her posture, shoulders back, stance grounded, her gaze steady and unyielding. Each second hung between them, measured, weighted, a silent negotiation of presence, influence, and awareness. The energy in the room taut yet balanced, a quiet test of resilience, observation, and mutual acknowledgement. Lily picked up a water bottle, taking a slow sip, feeling the cool liquid steady her heartbeat. Her awareness sharpened, the gym, the rain, the mirrors, and the faint scent of leather and cologne all forming a subtle framework around the silent interplay of attention, intention, and intrigue that had settled between them, a prelude to decisions, interactions, and challenges that were only beginning to reveal themselves in this charged, deliberate, and intricate dynamic. The air in the gym shifted subtly as Lily Harper moved toward the rowing machines, her fingers tracing the cold metal handles with deliberate intent, muscles still warm from her earlier routine, her green eyes scanning the room with quiet alertness. Ethan Blackwood remained near the mirrored wall, a silent observer, his posture relaxed but charged with the weight of attention, his dark eyes following every precise movement, cataloging each breath, each tilt of her head, each subtle shift of her stance. You approach everything with careful calculation, he said, voice low, measured, resonating through the quiet space, each word deliberate, carrying an unspoken weight that seemed to settle on the air around them. Lily adjusted the seat on the rowing machine, gripping the handles with steady hands, feeling the controlled tension in her arms, her core engaging, her focus centered entirely on the motion she executed. I plan my steps, not for anyone else, but for myself, she replied, her voice firm, confident, yet calm, a statement of autonomy that seemed to create an invisible boundary even as he observed her so closely. The mirrored wall reflected both of them, their forms moving in quiet rhythm, a dance of presence, control, and observation that required no words, each gesture carrying intention, each breath measured, each glance deliberate. Ethan stepped a fraction closer, his shadow stretching across the polished floor, the faint scent of leather and winter cologne a subtle, constant reminder of his presence, non-intrusive yet impossible to ignore. Lily inhaled slowly, setting her feet against the platform, pulling back on the handles with smooth, precise motion, the muscles in her back flexing as she leaned, maintaining perfect form, her green eyes fixed on her reflection, unblinking, unwavering. Discipline is evident, but so is independence, Ethan said, his voice carrying through the room with quiet intensity, his gaze never leaving hers, noting how she maintained control over herself even as the room seemed charged with the invisible tension between them. Lily exhaled, letting her shoulders relax briefly before resetting her posture, pulling again with measured effort, the rhythm of motion blending seamlessly with the soft patter of rain against the gym windows, the city lights outside streaking into elongated reflections across the floor. Ethan observed, tilting his head slightly, assessing, measuring, the subtle curvature of her expression, the controlled cadence of her movements, noting both strength and the quiet confidence that radiated from her form. She lowered the handles, standing fully, muscles tense but controlled, taking a deliberate step away from the machine, water bottle in hand, fingers wrapping around the cool surface, bringing it to her lips in a measured, grounding gesture. Ethan's eyes lingered, dark, calculating, yet betraying a hint of fascination, as if each controlled action she executed reinforced his attention and admiration in equal measure. The gym, filled with the hum of fluorescent lights, the faint echo of rain outside, and the reflective mirrors, had become a stage for subtle negotiation, a measured interplay of focus, control, observation, and silent acknowledgment, each movement and glance a carefully constructed message of will, presence, and intrigue. Lily straightened fully, water bottle lowered, eyes meeting Ethan's with steady intensity, sensing the charged, unspoken acknowledgment between them, the awareness that each choice, each movement, each breath held meaning, and that the dynamic, complex as it was only beginning to unfold in its full depth and subtlety. The gym had grown quieter, the subtle hum of the fluorescent lights blending with the soft patter of rain against the large windows, casting streaks of muted light across the polished floor that seemed to shimmer with every motion. Lily Harper stood near the center of the room, towel in hand, muscles still warm from the workout, green eyes alert and focused, absorbing the space around her while remaining entirely aware of Ethan Blackwood's presence. He remained near the mirrored wall, posture relaxed yet radiating authority, dark eyes fixed on her with a precise, unwavering attention that felt almost magnetic, drawing the room into a charged, silent dialogue. Lily wiped her brow, letting a slow breath settle, feeling the controlled rhythm of her heartbeat, the calm of measured awareness anchoring her, and she took a careful step toward the resistance bands, rolling one between her palms as if to gauge her own focus, while subtly testing the boundaries of the space between them. "You continue to impress," Ethan said, voice steady, low, deliberate, carrying a weight that made the words linger in the air like a tangible presence. She allowed a small smile, subtle, not yielding, just a recognition of his observation. "I am not seeking approval, only maintaining control of what I can," she replied, tone firm, measured, resonating in the quiet gym. His gaze shifted slightly, scanning her posture, her stance, the subtle flex of her muscles, noting the careful way she adjusted her balance, the precision in her motions, the awareness she carried in every action. Lily placed the resistance band back on its hook with care, feeling the tension in her arms ease slightly as she centered herself, water bottle in hand, taking a deliberate sip to ground herself further in the moment. Ethan's presence remained constant, a shadow of quiet influence, his attention precise, yet giving her room to assert control, the subtle dance of observation and acknowledgment continuing without words, the air between them thick with anticipation and quiet. Fascination. She moved toward the row of free weights, selecting a moderate dumbbell with careful hands, lifting it smoothly, feeling the subtle resistance, the burn in her muscles a reminder of her discipline, while Ethan observed, his expression calm yet reflective, noting the balance of strength, composure, and independence she exuded. The mirrored walls reflected both of them, their figures captured in light and shadow, the interplay of distance and proximity, presence and autonomy, creating a visual echo of the silent tension that had grown over the course of the session. Lily lowered the dumbbell with precision, exhaled slowly, allowing the subtle shift of her weight to convey readiness, awareness, and control, while Ethan's eyes remained locked on her, dark, calculating, measuring, his acknowledgment of her resolve quiet yet unmistakable. Outside, the city lights flickered through the rain, casting patterns across the floor, mirrors, and walls, each reflection adding depth to the scene, amplifying the interplay of observation, defiance, and subtle fascination. Lily adjusted her posture, standing tall, shoulders back, chin level, green eyes steady and unwavering, feeling the charged energy of the room, the silent, mutual acknowledgment between them, a quiet understanding that the dynamics of attention, will, and presence were deepening, the tension and intrigue between control and independence reaching a poised, deliberate peak, setting the stage for the moments yet to unfold. The rain outside had slowed to a light drizzle, streaks of city lights filtering through the windows in soft, elongated reflections that danced across the polished gym floor. Lily Harper gathered her belongings, her movements deliberate, graceful, each gesture a controlled punctuation to the session that had tested both body and mind. She paused near the door, glancing back once, green eyes meeting the mirrored reflection of Ethan Blackwood standing near the corner, his posture relaxed yet undeniably commanding, dark eyes tracing her every movement, measuring, acknowledging, absorbing the subtle cues she had woven into her actions. "You have shown remarkable consistency," he said, voice low, resonant, carrying an unspoken weight that seemed to fill the space between them with a tangible energy. Lily allowed a small nod, tilting her head slightly, the corner of her lips curving in acknowledgment without compromise. "I do not act for recognition, only to maintain my own standards," she replied, voice calm, firm, deliberate, carrying both clarity and quiet authority. Ethan's gaze softened imperceptibly, noting the balance of discipline, focus, and independence she exuded, the silent assertion of control over her own actions and choices, a quality that intrigued and captivated in equal measure. She stepped toward the exit, adjusting the strap of her gym bag over her shoulder, muscles humming with the aftereffects of exertion, her breath steady, measured, the quiet rhythm of her heart grounding her in awareness. Ethan shifted, a subtle step forward, the faint scent of leather and winter cologne marking his presence without intrusion, a constant yet restrained force of observation and influence. Lily opened the door, letting the cool, rain-tinged air brush against her skin, the gym behind her still filled with the soft hum of fluorescent lights and the lingering reflections of their interaction. She paused briefly on the threshold, green eyes meeting his across the room, a mutual acknowledgment passing silently between them, the unspoken understanding that their dynamic, charged and intricate, had deepened over the course of the session. The rain outside shimmered under the streetlights, reflecting in patterns that seemed to echo the subtle, measured choreography of their engagement, each droplet a soft percussion that underscored the tension, the attention, and the growing fascination that had quietly taken root. Lily stepped into the hallway, the faint sound of her footsteps blending with the distant hum of city life, each step deliberate, measured, signaling both independence and awareness, the silent negotiation of presence and influence continuing even as she moved away from the gym space. Ethan remained, watching, dark eyes following, cataloging, a shadow of quiet attention, acknowledgment, and intrigue marking his every movement without crossing the boundaries of her autonomy. She reached the stairwell, pausing to glance over her shoulder once more, the reflection of the rain-slicked street through the window casting a subtle glow across her face, the green of her eyes steady, resolute, unyielding. Ethan's silhouette lingered in the mirrored corner, an unspoken promise in his steady observation, a quiet affirmation of the tension, control, and fascination that had been carefully built throughout the session, a deliberate prelude to the continuing dynamic that awaited them beyond this moment. Lily exhaled slowly, steadying herself, aware of the intricate balance of autonomy and attention, influence and defiance, presence and observation, knowing that the interaction, rich with unspoken communication and measured awareness, had set the stage for encounters yet to come, charged, deliberate, and entirely compelling.